So we had to clean house. I want to make something clear for the record. What began the shenanigans was the fork tonguing of what actually took place. It was merely an affidavit calling for an investigation with 14 days of due process for you to gather your evidence and do what you got to do to prove your innocence before the Constitutional Council. This is where this began. Do not get caught up with the noise, the distractions, the deflection, the gaslighting. What happened was they sabotaged the investigation and skipped over straight into impeachment. And what was being said? That I'm removing folks. That's what was sold to the people. That I'm abusing my powers to remove them. So therefore, we need to impeach him and remove him. But in all actuality, it was an investigation. And by way of an investigation, just like normal, you're under suspension. If you're being investigated, you go under suspension. And yes, the Sultan can suspend the Prime Minister, the executive chief of staff, and the judge. They're all super subordinate to the Sultan. Period. But again, it was an investigation that afforded you the due process of law to present your case, your defense. It was sabotage, and we went into impeachments and removal, which then became suspension, and then people started recruiting themselves. You see, this was a kangaroo court. It was a mock court. It was a SpongeBob court. It was a Sesame Street court. There's frivolity. So I say that to say it began with suspension and investigation that was twisted as removal. And I'm reading now is the removal. This began on the 1st of October. It's now that I'm removing. You see what I'm saying? A lot transpired since then, from that time till now. And these things that transpired was the confirmation of what was being laid out in my affidavit: sedition, constitutional crisis, a breach, a gross breach of the Constitution. Again, instead of answering up to those allegations and proving you're innocent, you double down on the allegations that's being presented within the affidavit. So it went from suspension and investigations way back in, I don't know, October 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, to now, October 14th, 15th, removal. Office of the Sultan of Morocco, capital address. We had to change the capital address. 5651 Coventry Lane, Fort Wayne, Indiana, 46804. The People's Decree of Removal from Office by order of His Majesty the Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, Sovereign of the Empire of Morocco. The Noba Ilu El, former Executive Director of the Wazir Regional Council and former Executive Chief of Staff. The Wazir Regional Council, the Government of the Empire of Morocco, from His Majesty the Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, dated 14 October 2025. Immediate removal from all offices for sedition, gross misconduct, and unauthorized seizure of state property. This decree serves as formal and irrevocable notice of your immediate removal from the offices of Executive Director of the Wazir Regional Council and Executive Chief of Staff of the Empire of Morocco. This action is taken under the absolute sovereign authority vested in our person by Article 10 of the Constitution and as a necessary measure under the state of emergency declared under Article 18. Your removal is demanded by your direct and willful complicity in the failed coup attempt against the people's seat of Sultan and the constitutional order. The specific grounds for your removal include, but are not limited to, 1. Active complicity in a seditious conspiracy. Evidence confirms your alignment and cooperation, or should I say coordination, with the treacherous faction led by the former Chief Judge, J. Jermaine Bey, and the fraudulent Sultan, DeAndre Dre Bey. Their statements and actions were instrumental in advancing their illegitimate aims. 2. Unauthorized seizure of state property and blocking of access. In a gross abuse of your administrative power, you deliberately and unlawfully block the sovereign and other competent government officials from accessing the Wazir Regional Council database, etc. This act constituted an unauthorized seizure of critical state infrastructure, deliberately obstructing the lawful governance of the empire and aiding the coup attempt. These actions represent a fundamental betrayal of your oath of office and the sacred trust placed in you. You have demonstrated utter unfitness for any position of authority. Now, therefore, we hereby decree 1. Nova Iluel is hereby stripped of all titles, authority, and privileges associated with the offices of Executive Director of the WRC and Executive Chief of Staff, effective immediately. 2. She is permanently barred from holding any future office, position, or employment within the government of the Empire of Morocco and all its affiliated bodies. 3. She is ordered to immediately surrender all state property, documents, access codes, and administrative control of the WRC database to the Office of the Prime Minister. Failure to comply will be met with confiscation of monies due upon decolonization. This decree is final, and the reign of traitors within our administration is terminated. Long live the Moorish Empire and His Majesty the Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, given under our hand and the seal of our office, Abdul Smith Al-Kabir, His Sharifian Majesty, Sovereign of the Sharifian Empire, 14 October 2025. And it didn't have to come to that. It certainly didn't start there. It started with an investigation. The problem is that J. Ben and his crew are not to be questioned. They are above the law. Well, okay, that proves the sedition. Because you're a judge. So you're basically saying that the sovereign authority of the Sultan don't matter. They disrespected the office, me as a man, the office of Consul General. The Consul General is a man, the Constitution, the empire, the government, the people's vote, the will of the people. Everything was disrespected. But it's not going lightly. We will continue to fight. But this fight is over. Now, Chad Rahel Bey, the former prime minister, office of the Sultan of Morocco, the people's decree of removal from office. This is the people's decree of removal from office. By order of His Majesty, the Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, Sovereign of the Empire of Morocco, to Chad Rahel Bey, former Minister of Foreign Affairs, and to the international community and the United Nations and the government of the Empire of Morocco, from His Majesty Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, October 14, 2025. Immediate removal from office for sedition and acting as an agent of a seditious faction. This decree serves as formal and irrevocable notice of the immediate removal of Chad Rahel Bey from the office of Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Empire of Morocco. This action is taken under the absolute sovereign authority vested in our person by Article 10 of the Constitution, and as a necessary measure under the state of emergency declared under Article 18 to secure the empire from internal and external threats. Your removal is necessitated by refutable evidence of your complicity with the seditious AMPAC 2.0 faction. The specific grounds for your removal are as follows. One, acting as an agent of a seditious faction. Evidence confirms you have operated as a knowing agent and representative of the AMPAC 2.0 conspiracy within the highest levels of our government. Your actions were not mere alignment, but active service to this faction, whose identified goal is the overthrow of the constitutional order. Two, gross betrayal of diplomatic trust. In your role as the chief diplomatic official, you betrayed the sacred trust of this office. Instead of representing the interests of the empire and the sovereign, you used your position to advance the seditious agenda of traitors seeking to corrupt the empire's foreign relations and legitimacy, causing a delay in our justice. Your conduct represents the most profound betrayal of your oath of office. A minister of foreign affairs who serves a shadow government is patently unfit to represent the empire in any capacity. Now, therefore, we hereby decree one, Chad Rahel Bey is hereby stripped of the title, authority, and all privileges of the office of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, effective immediately. Two, he is permanently barred from holding any future office, position, or employment within the government of the Empire of Morocco. Three, he is ordered to surrender all state property, diplomatic credentials, documents, and access codes to the office of the Prime Minister forthwith. Notice to the international community. The individual Chad Rahel Bey no longer holds any official capacity or represents the Empire of Morocco in any way. All nations and international organizations are requested to deny him any recognition, privilege, or platform. Any diplomatic communications from him are fraudulent and seditious. The empire's diplomatic corps will be cleansed of such treachery and restored to its rightful purpose, serving the sovereign will of the Moroccan people. Long live the Moorish Empire and His Majesty the Sultan, Abdul Al-Kabir, given under our hand and the seal of our office. Abdul Smith Al-Kabir, His Sharifian Majesty, Sovereign of the Sharifian Empire, 14 October 2025. So that's the former Minister of Foreign Affairs who operates within the AMPAC 2.0 faction. And as an agent, there's no other way to put it. He's an agent, um, working hand in hand directly with the ringleader, J. Jermaine Bey. See, I can't help but to continue on with that narrative because you never answered up to that allegation when I called for the investigation. That was your opportunity to shut that notion down if it wasn't true. So all the way up to this point, we're just seeing you doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down on the allegations that I called you out on, and all these people have been complicit. um, this one here comes with the heaviest of hearts because it was me who nurtured and really took under my wing Sister Makara ill. I was my involvement with the establishment of DEMT was absolutely instrumental. I mean, I was all the way involved, starting with the original Wazir, Coleman Ill. The Wazir Kendon, he became Wazir because I suggested it. Makara stuck around because I nurtured her, and she became the speaker. And so, rather than to uh, adhering to the principles of the Constitution and also the basic morality of impartiality, she chose to go rogue and um, she chose to go rogue with the ringleader, the silver forked tongue, disgraced and removed Chief Judge J. Jermaine Bey. For whatever reason. It's not just me that she has betrayed as a person, but she's also betraying the will of the people, the Constitution, the people's votes, the constitutional order in it of itself as a whole, which proves her unfitness to lead or govern a people, getting involved with these um, personal, these inappropriate personal allegiances, colluding, right? The judicial branch is J Bay, the legislative branch is the speaker, and they're colluding. He's writing the documents, they're colluding, just colluding. J Bay with the prime minister, the executive branch, just colluding like it's all good. It's just, let's just collude. This is what she's doing. It's colluding like it's all good because J Bay says so. He's the Sultan. He did all the work, right? He wrote the Constitution, so he gets to collude. He gets to be above the law. This is what we're getting from the leader of the legislative branch and others. Inappropriate personal allegiance, and so what can I say? I have to do what I got to do. I'm not happy about this, but I'm a damn sure do it. I don't care how unpopular or how uncomfortable. I'm not going to allow this type of foolishness. Period. And I don't care who it is. I don't care what you did. Javande wrote the Constitution. He worked hard, right? Daoud Habib El, he worked hard to help establish AMPAC 1.0, the original and recognized AMPAC. J-Bay didn't care about all that. It was them who created the seal and the flag. J-Bay didn't care about all that. He took all that. Y'all want to tell me, well, he did a lot of work. He did a lot of work. You're cowards. You're weak and incompetent. And that's why I'm forced to do exactly this. The people's decree, decree, the people's decree of dissolution and restoration of the house. By order of His Majesty the Sultan, Abdul Al-Kabir, sovereign of the Empire of Morocco, to Makara El, former Speaker of the House of Sayarahas and former Sayaraha of Dimti Maksen, and to all members of the House of Sayarahas, the people of the Empire of Morocco, and the United Nations, from His Majesty Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, 14 October 2025. Immediate dissolution of the House of Sayarahas and removal of all members for sedition and gross constitutional breach. This decree serves as formal and irrevocable notice of the immediate dissolution of the current House of Sayarahas and the removal of all its members from office. This action is taken under the absolute sovereign authority vested in our person by Article 10 of the Constitution and as a necessary measure under the state of emergency declared under Article 18 to purge our government of systemic treason. The grounds of this dissolution are unquestionable. The House, under the leadership of the former Speaker, Makara El, and through the votes of its members, actively participated in a seditious conspiracy by passing a no confidence measure that unlawfully commenced fraudulent judicial proceedings. This collective act was a direct assault on the constitutional order, representing a complete failure of their sworn duty. The evidence of collusion is now public record, found within the fraudulent court documents themselves. These documents, authored by the seditious former Chief Judge J. Jermaine Bey, prove a premeditated conspiracy between the legislative and judicial branches. By writing the legal framework for his own fraudulent kangaroo court, Bey actively violated Article 75 of our Constitution regarding the independence of the Moorish judicial authority, of which we, the people, guarantee. His subsequent recusal was a cowardly attempt to evade the liability he created, leaving the Speaker and the complicit House to face the consequences for his treason and malfeasance. Now, therefore, we hereby decree one, the House of Sarahs is hereby dissolved. All members are removed from office effective immediately. Two, Makara El is stripped of the title and all privileges of the office of the Speaker and is permanently barred from public office. Three, all removed members are ordered to surrender all state property and access immediately to the Attorney General, Kanye Shobe. Four, to lead the restoration of the people's representation, we hereby appoint Martisha L. of MSR Moxon as the new Speaker of the House. She is charged with overseeing the rebuilding of a competent, impartial, and constitutional legislative body. A new House, free from the undue influence and corruption of the AMPAC 2.0 faction, is being instituted. The conspiracy has been destroyed, and the government is being rebuilt upon the foundations of impartiality and the rule of law. Long live the Moorish Empire and His Majesty the Sultan, Abdul Al-Kabir, given under our hand and the seal of our office. Abdul Smith Al-Kabir, His Sharifian Majesty, Sovereign of the Sharifian Empire, 14 October 2025. And I hope I'm sending a message here to all these so-called government officials. It's nothing for you to go study political science, sir, ma'am, all y'all. You're in government and not knowing what the hell you're doing. On top of that, you're cowards. You're all scared of J-Bay. It is a cult. Fellowship is what it is. Cult fellowship with a bunch of puppets, placeholders who don't study, which then makes it easy to pull the wool over your eyes. It's easy to convince you that preside doesn't mean preside. It's easy to convince you that preside means, oh, you're just there. You're just there. You're just there to like oversee things, just to look around and make sure that no one curses and get out of hand. You're just there. Well, what does a judge do when he presides over a case? He's just there. Really? This is what you all fell for? People like Amir Kane Ale? You got gamed, bruh. You got gamed. You were seduced by Vlad the Impaler. Continuing. The people decree of absolute stripping and nullification. The people, office of the Sultan of Morocco. By order of His Majesty the Sultan, Abdul Al-Kabir, Sovereign of the Empire of Morocco. To Isaac L. Mahdi Bey, former Chief Judge of Ampag Moxon and Associate Judge of the Empire. And to the Moorish Judicial Authority of Morocco and the United Nations, from His Majesty Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, 14 October 2025. Immediate removal and permanent disbarment for participation in and subsequent abandonment of a fraudulent judicial proceeding. Let this decree serve as formal and irrevocable notice that the individual Isaac Bey Mahdi El has been permanently removed from any and all judicial offices and is disbarred from any future service in the Empire of Morocco. This action is taken under the absolute sovereign authority vested in our person by Article 10 of the Constitution, and as a necessary measure to preserve the integrity of our judicial authority under the state of emergency declared under Article 18. Your service as a puppet interim chief judge in a fraudulent and unconstitutional impeachment proceeding constitute a gross perversion of justice by presiding over a kangaroo court engineered by the recused and seditious ringleader J. Jermaine Bay. You demonstrated a profound unfitness for judicial office, giving credence to the word frivolity. For these reasons, as the grantor of the independence of the Moorish judicial authority, I deem your actions as incompetent, dishonorable, and shameful. Your subsequent recusal from the very proceeding you presided over is a de facto admission of its illegitimacy and your own guilt. You first lent your name to this treasonous travesty, and then, recognizing the overwhelming weight of its illegality, attempted to abandon your post to escape liability. This cowardly act confirms the proceeding was a fraud from its inception and that you were a willing participant until you feared the consequences of your ineffectual actions. Now, therefore, we hereby decree one, Isaac Bey Makdiel is stripped of any title, authority, or privilege associated with the judiciary. Two, he is permanently disbarred from holding any judicial or legal office within the Empire of Morocco. Three, all rulings and actions taken by him in his illegitimate capacity are declared null and void ab initio. Four, he is to step away from the chambers of Ampag Moxon to make way for a more competent, noble, and honorable Moroccan judge. This decree is effective immediately. The Moorish judicial authority of the empire will be cleansed of such corruption and restored to its rightful role as a pillar of our constitutional republic. The reign of order and constitutional authority has been forever restored. Long live the Moorish Empire and His Majesty the Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, given under our hand and the seal of our office, Abdul Smith Al-Kabir, His Sharifian Majesty, Sovereign of the Sharifian Empire, 14 October 2025. Mind you, Isaac has already been involved in something similar earlier on in 2022, involving my impeachment and removal as Wazir of Ampag that lacked what, Isaac? The due process of law and investigation. So imagine this. In that moment, it was J. Bay who saved the day. He called Isaac, told him he was out of order. He had to retract everything. Fast forward today is Jay who's doing it to me. And guess who's involved with it too? Yet again, like as if he didn't learn his lesson from the first time. The same removed Judge Isaac Bay. Third, you need to go sit down somewhere. This is not for you. Continuing. Straight to the point, the people's decree, coming from the office of the Sultan of Morocco. The Sultan represents the people. The Sultan is linked to the people. The people is the Sultan. I draw all my powers from the people. By order of the people's decree of absolute stripping and nullification, by order of His Majesty the Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, Sovereign of the Empire of Morocco. Two, J. Jermaine Bey, former Chief Judge of the Empire of Morocco and Ampag Moxon, and to the people of the Moorish Empire and the United Nations. From His Majesty Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, dated 14 October 2025. Absolute stripping of titles, authority, and immunities for sedition and treason. Notice to the international community. That this decree serve as formal and irrevocable notice to all foreign powers, international organizations, and the people of the empire. Whereas the individual, J. Jermaine Bey, former chief judge, was the central architect and ringleader of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the Constitution, usurp the authority of the Sultan, and overthrow the lawful government of the Empire of Morocco. And whereas his actions, including the orchestration of a fraudulent judicial proceeding, the collusion with executive branch officials and House members, as well as the attempted usurpation of sovereign authority, constitute the very definition of treason and high crimes under our Constitution. Now, therefore, by the absolute sovereign authority vested in our person by Article 10 of the Constitution, and as a necessary measure of justice under the state of emergency declared under Article 18, we hereby decree the following upon the individual J. Jermaine Bey. 1. He is hereby stripped of all titles, ranks, and honors, most notably that of Chief Judge. 2. All official authority he previously held is nullified and revoked. 3. All qualified immunities granted to him by virtue of his former office are absolutely terminated. 4. He is permanently barred from holding any public office or position within the Empire of Morocco government or that of the Moxen. 5. All documents, author, etc., is intellectual property of the empire and is to be relinquished to the Attorney General. 6. He is to be held as a private national to face criminal prosecution for treason, sedition, and fraud upon the state. This decree is effective immediately and is not subject to appeal or review. Notice to the international community. The individual, J. Jermaine Bey, no longer holds any official capacity or represent the Empire of Morocco in any way. He is a fugitive from Moroccan justice. All nations and international organizations are requested to deny him any recognition, privilege, or platform, and to regard any communication from him as fraudulent and seditious. The reign of order and constitutional authority has been forever restored. Long live the Moorish Empire and His Majesty the Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, given under our hand and the seal of our office. Abdul Smith Al-Kabir, His Sharifian Majesty, Sovereign of the Sharifian Empire, 14 October 2025. And I mean this, and I'm very serious. Every last one of these emails are being sent to the United Nations and the C24 and the 12 signatory powers, including the Kingdom of Morocco and the Holy See. These removal letters serve as international notice. Every last one of them. I don't know who the hell you thought you was dealing with, J. Bay, but you just found out. Moving on. And the final removal letter. And this is just frivolity for real, for real. Like the so-called successors. See, when you have a coup d'etat, right, is to seize power from the head of state and place someone else in its seat. A puppet, a string puppet, someone that is comfortable with having another man's hands up his back. And that would be the fraudulent, fake, usurper, and imposter, DeAndre Dre Bay. Office of the Sultan of Morocco. Official declaration of nullification and cease and desist notice. By order of His Majesty the Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, Sovereign of the Empire of Morocco, to DeAndre Dre Bay and Hendon Bay. All governmental departments of the Empire of Morocco, the nationals of the Empire of Morocco, the international community, and the United Nations. from His Majesty Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, dated 14 October 2025. Rejection of fraudulent claims and formal cease and desist directive coming from the Sultan of Morocco. This decree serves as formal and absolute notice that the Empire of Morocco, under its legitimate and constitutional government, completely and unequivocally rejects the fraudulent claims of the following individuals. One, DeAndre Dre Bey, who falsely purports to be the Sultan of the Empire of Morocco. Two, Kendon Bey, who falsely purports to be the Prime Minister of the Empire of Morocco. Their claims are based entirely on a failed and seditious coup attempt and have no basis in law, fact, or the Constitution of the Empire of Morocco. The fraudulent judicial proceeding that attempted to legitimize this coup has been declared null and void by the People's Proclamation of Nullification and Restoration dated 8 October 2025. Let their proper and current status be clear to all. DeAndre Dre Bey holds the status of a removed prime minister and a removed wazir of Ampak Matson that's currently under a state of emergency and administrative seizure. He holds no public office. Kendon Bey holds the status of a removed wazir of Dimti Moxon that's currently under a state of emergency and administrative seizure. He holds no public office. This letter serves as a formal cease and desist directive. They are hereby commanded to immediately cease and desist all activities, communications, and representation in which they falsely claim to hold the offices of Sultan or Prime Minister. Any further misrepresentation of their status will be considered a continuing act of sedition and fraud upon the state and its people. Such actions will be met with the full force of the law, including but not limited to substantial financial penalties, economic liberty, criminal prosecution, confiscation of monies due upon decolonization. The constitutional order of the Moroccan Empire has been restored, and the reign of these seditious traitors has been dismantled. Long live the Moorish Empire and His Majesty the Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, given under our hand and the seal of our office. Abdul Smith Al-Kabir, His Sharifian Majesty, Sovereign of the Sharifian Empire, dated 14 October 2025. And I'm not playing, Dre. I'm not playing, Kendon. I will communicate with the internal governors and lower courts regarding these POs that's assessed to my name. This is what I was elected to do: uphold the Constitution. And I'll say it again. I don't care how unpopular, how it make people feel. It's irrelevant to me. You had 14 days to answer up to my allegations set forth in my affidavit before the Constitutional Council to disregard or reject my claims, which was sedition, right? Right? Shadow government behavior, constitutional crisis. We will not get off of that subject. This is where this all comes from. You disregarded the question. Are you seditious or are you not? Well, you have proven it, which brings us to this point. Office of the Sultan of Morocco, State of the Empire Address. By His Majesty the Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, Sovereign of the Empire of Morocco. And let this be heard all across the globe. and to all my beloved Moroccan people. My beloved Moroccan people, my loyal officials, and the watching world. I come to you under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, standing on my core principles of unity, loyalty, conformity, and obedience. From my heart and soul to yours, I speak to you not of a crisis, but to declare its end, not to warn of a threat, but to announce our victory. The malevolent shadow that fell upon our empire has been lifted by the unwavering light of truth and the resolute strength of our Constitution. In recent days, you witnessed a grotesque and fraudulent spectacle, an unconstitutional impeachment carried out by a kangaroo court proceeding, a shameless act of political treason orchestrated by those I once trusted. This travesty, presided over by a seditious judge, attempted to install DeAndre Dre Bey as a fraudulent sultan and Camden Bey as a fraudulent prime minister. Let me state for the record with absolute clarity, their coup attempt has failed. I, Sultan Abdul Al-Kabir, remain your rightful, faithful, and legitimate sovereign. My authority, vested in me by the will of the people and the supreme law of our land, has not been broken. It has been tested and proven unshakable. We have stood firm, upheld by the courage of countless Moroccan loyalists who never wavered in their defense of our Constitution. The so-called impeachment was a house of cards built on falsehoods and already collapsing under the weight of its own corruption. The ringleader, the former and disgraced Chief Judge J. Jermaine Bey, has been exposed. Unable to face the truth of his own treason, he has stepped down and gone into hiding, only to elevate his co-conspirator, the removed judge of Ampag Moxon, Isaac Bey, to the fraudulent role of acting chief judge, and has now recused himself. This was never a succession. It was a desperate act from a defeated faction attempting to rearrange deck chairs on a sinking ship. Therefore, let this be heard throughout the land and across the globe. DeAndre Dre Bay is a usurper who lacks knowledge and understanding. Camden Bay is an impostor who lacks knowledge and understanding. Isaac Bay is a fraudulent judge and habitual violator of our Constitution. They hold no office, they wield no authority, and they represent no one but the defeated AMPAC 2.0 faction, which we now leave behind as a relic of a failed rebellion. Under the power vested in me by the people and Moroccan law based in our sacred constitution, I have removed every one of these bad actors. They are stripped of their titles, their authority, and their immunity. They now operate as fugitives from justice, and their pronouncements null and void. For quite some time now, the Moors have been asking a serious and important question. Is this the empire of Ampac? Or is this the J. Bay show? Well, he did say for the record that he is the director and producer, and the Sultan is the lead actor, relegating everyone else to supporting cast members and placeholders. With that statement, he told us his truth. You all see the truth, but under threat, duress, and coercion from the Ampac 2.0 faction, you turn a blind eye. I have no fear, and no matter how unpopular, I will make the tough decisions for the protections of the empire and the will of the people. I am upholding the Constitution as I was elected to do. Anything less is uncivilized and a dereliction of my duty. The people are now conveying a feeling of freedom to speak their minds and express themselves. The intimidation and bully tactics are no more. The utter disrespect and condescending attitudes are no more. This is a new empire with a new vision and a new direction. The people shall be heard and their ideas will be considered. No more gatekeeping your nationality or the recognition of political groups forming. We have won this political war. Now we march forward. Our mission is clear to complete the decolonization of our great empire and to take our rightful sovereign place among the nations of the earth. We will not be deterred. We will not be swayed. The state of our empire is resilient. Our spirit is unbroken, and the future is bright. Therefore, ours to claim. This address shall be deposited with the United Nations and promulgated to the people. Long live the Moorish Empire and His Majesty the Sultan, Abdul Al-Kabir, giving our hand in the seal of our office. Abdul Smith Al-Kabir, His Sharifian Majesty, Sovereign of the Sharifian Empire, 14 October 2025. Ashe, empower to the people. I yield.